There are three very common pitfalls that I see when musical theater writers are starting their musicals. I see them fall into these pitfalls all the time. And it's not only new musical theater writers either. Well, mostly, but I see this happen with anyone who's starting a new musical. And the worst part about these three pitfalls is that they are entirely avoidable. You don't have to fall into them. You don't gotta do it, my friends. But you also have to be aware of them and make the active conscious choice to not fall in, which means knowing what they are and also knowing what the solutions are that are available. So let's dive in. Let's talk about these three major pitfalls so that you, my friends, you can avoid them in your own writing. Let's do it. Let's dive in. Let's make it happen. If you're new to me, hi, I'm Michael Reddy, aka Musical Theater Writer Guy, aka your musical theater writing coach. And you can find me here on the YouTubes as well as TikTok and Instagram. And I think I have a Facebook page still. Who's to say? Does anyone use Facebook? And I'm the founder of the Musical Theater Writing Collective, a hybrid online international community of musical theater writers. I teach courses, I coach, I do all the things. So welcome, my friends. Welcome to the community. And if you are returning, hey, thanks for coming back. Nice to see y'all. All right, let's get into this. Here we go. Number one, the first pitfall is this is gonna annoy some of you. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Some of you are gonna be like, Myro, stop it. And I get it. It is going it alone, writing the story that you want to write without first getting a collaborator. So here we're specifying beyond the normal, just like don't go it alone, because like, guys, don't go it alone. Stop it. Okay? I did that. Bad choice. I mean, the show's great, but it would have moved a lot faster with a collaborator. So find your collaborators, my friends, and we got to start with the collaborators. We got to get them early in the process. Ideally, in the ideal world, you're going to want to have the collaborator first, and then between y'all, collaborator or collaborators, and then between y'all, come up with the idea that you want to write so that everyone has ownership in the idea from the start. Everyone's excited, everyone's on board, and the amount that everyone's on board is equal. That's the idea. If you're not doing that, at least being like in the process of ideation, right? Ideation, potentially even some planning. But if you're already in the writing process, it's going to be hard. Let me talk about that in a second. Put a pin in it. If you have the idea and you're excited about the idea and you've begun to kind of plot it out a little bit, you've given thought to what kind of music it might be, what the words might sound like, you have some sense of what structure could be, that's still a fine time to have a collaborator come in and join you. Okay, because at that point it's like, yes, here's my idea. Do you like my idea? And if they do like your idea and they're on board as much as you're on board, then yay, go forth, make the thing happen, write the thing, right? But if you get super far in the process, like a full draft, then what I see happen is that writers tend to cling to that idea and or to what they've written so far without really wanting input. They want someone to come in and fulfill a role that they can't fulfill themselves, but they're not looking for collaboration. They're looking no input, just like do the thing, right? Here's my orders and go. That, my friends, is not collaboration. That's work for hire. You best hire those people, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. Pardon me. Ooh, allergies are getting me today. I'm not saying it's impossible that someone could hop on board at that point and become an actual collaborator. Maybe someone's like, yeah, oh, I love this project so much. I'd be very happy to compose this music for your lyrics and your story you have. Come on board as a collaborator. That can happen. I just see it happen pretty rarely. Why is that the case? Such a good question. Thank you for asking. Because when I'm looking at the sphere of musical theater writers in the world, I'm not just talking about my own community. I'm talking about like the broad, full playing field that is all the musical theater writers out there. Why do you think that they're musical theater writers? They have ideas. They want to write their ideas, right? Everyone wants to write their own ideas. And that's great. That's lovely. That's wonderful. But it means that unless someone has the true buy-in to your idea, they're not going to join you, or it's going to be low priority for them. There's nothing wrong with that, right? If it is low priority, you just got to know that you're going to go low and slow, and that's also okay. But if you want someone who is just as passionate about your idea as you are, start early. Get the collaborators first, create the idea together, and go. Do not wait until you have something that's like fully fleshed out. Okay? Once you're in that process, the buy-in is so much harder. Right. There are, like I said, there's a range in between. If you're in ideation, great. Someone's probably happy to come on board still. Like they would have buy-in, they feel like they have ownership. Go forth, make collaboration happen. But if you go too far, then it's work for hire, not a collaboration. That's what I see a lot of y'all looking for ultimately is your work for hire unicorn. But you don't want to hire them. You want them to come on board and buy in, but then you're mad that they aren't buying in. Don't do it. Okay, so this started with the idea of don't go it alone, though, right? So don't get alone in general, even if you are writing book music and lyrics, which, like, cool, good on you. But if you are writing everything, you're still going to need people along the way. That could be some sort of director or someone who's doing dramaturgy work for you. It could be an actual dramaturg who's a part of the process of creating the thing. It could be having a mentor, a coach, a community, a group for feedback, a group of trusted friends you can constantly bring the ideas to, people who know what they're doing and know how to give feedback. So you're still having a collaborative process along the way, but you're going to need someone. Ideally, collaborators. And then I said my diatribe about collaborators. So that's number one. It's don't go it alone. Stop it. Okay, number two. Writing your story to be quote unquote commercially viable. My friends. I know. You're looking at the landscape and you're going, no one's going to buy my thing if it's too big, right? No one's going to do it because there's no money. No one has money. We are completely hindered by the lack of land and the lack of money. So what are we going to do about it, right? We're going to write to whatever's commercially viable. We're going to make this easier for people to want to buy. There's so many issues with that. Let me say more. First and foremost, what do I mean by commercially viable? So this could mean the content, like writing a show about, I don't know, what's something everybody loves? I don't know. The world can't agree on anything right now. But let's pretend there is something that everybody loves. Write a show about that. It's got a big audience, right? The content, big audience content. So write that. Commercially viable. Or the subject matter, something that it feels universal. Or the themes, right? Or the story you chose. Do I want to say this at this moment? Yeah, I'm going to say it at this moment. Yeah, I can always say more. Or the story you chose is based on a pre-existing property that you think will attract an audience. Giving a little bit of side eye to Broadway on that one. We have a lot of these, right? People are constantly talking about how they're fed up with those, but we can say more. But the main thing here is whatever you're writing, it's okay if it is commercially viable in terms of content or subject or theme or pre-existing property or pre-existing audience. That's okay if it's true. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to ignore what you actually want to write or restrict yourself for the purposes of quote unquote expense in a production. Okay. And there's a lot of ways that that looks. So, for instance, I had someone I was talking to recently saying, well, yeah, I mean, the show has about 15 characters, but I've got it so it's done with 7. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know doubling was a part of the story. The story doesn't sound like it would have doubling baked into it. He was like, well, no, it didn't. But I figured it out. I figured out how to make it work, and we're gonna do it that way. Because I was like, is that serving your story? He was like, well, I had to cut some things. I was like, were they plot points? He was like, oh, a couple of them were plot points. No, don't cut the plot points. Don't undercut the purpose of your piece, the intentions of your piece, or what you love to do about your piece, right? It may be less interesting to you to write a 7-person musical than it is to write a 15-person musical. So write your 15-person musical. Do it. Now, if you're sitting over there thinking, but Michael, maybe no one will produce the 15-person musical. It's possible that that's true. But like, I don't know. I went to Death Becomes Her last night on Broadway. It's gigantic. It's huge. That is not the only huge thing I saw on Broadway in the past several weeks. There's a lot of big stuff happening. Now, if you're like, but Michael, what about the smaller theaters? They're not going to do it. Well, I don't know. I see regional theater, and I see pretty big shows at regional theaters. Now, to be fair, I'm talking about LORT regionals, so like larger regional houses for sure, for sure. But then you might be thinking, but Michael, what about the smaller houses? They're not going to do it. Okay. There you may or may not have a point. It depends, right? The economic status of the theater right now is rough, which is why we're having this conversation, right? People are like, I have to make it commercially viable. I have to make it less expensive. It's not your job to make it less expensive. Your job is to write the story and to make it good and to make sure it has intention and purpose, that you follow through on the answers to your North Star question sets. Download those, they're in the description. That's your job, is to write the story. I hate to say it, but it's true that the figuring out of how it works, that's up to the director and design team and the producers and the actors. It's not really your job. The reason I say I hate to say it is because I do understand that, yes, there are times when the design team or production team may come to you and be like, hey, can we change this because I don't know how we're going to do it with the resources we have. Okay. You may have to make a concession or two along the way. That's totally fine. I'm also going to say that this is coming from someone who originally was writing a show that was much, much larger than it ended up being, and it is 9 people. However, when I did the restructure of the show to reduce the number of people needed for the cast, I did specifically do it for the 9 people. It actually became baked into the show, into the structure, and how the whole thing functions, and actually I like it a lot better. But I didn't do it because of quote unquote expense. I did it because of messiness. The storytelling felt messy with too many people. So don't write for commercial viability. Write your story. Follow it. We can figure the rest out later. It's your job to write the thing first. Oh goodness, sorry. Shelley, I missed this comment. What'd you say? Switchfoot collaborated for more than a year till someone finally said you're going to have to write this book on your own. Drafting the book now, hoping to pull in others before I start lyrics. I'd be interested to hear more about that process, what that looked like, and why you were told that, because I don't know if that's blanketly true. I'd be curious to know how many people you talked with, who you were looking for in terms of collaborators. Because don't forget, when we're searching for collaborators, sorry to go back to point 1, everybody. Stick with me for a second. We'll get to point 3. When you're looking for collaborators, you want to find people who are going to resonate with the piece, right? And that may mean, I don't know, if your story is about a specific geographical region, find someone who has a tie to that region or a specific love for that region, right? Or if it could also be as simple as, who do you gel with as a person, right? Find the people who you like to work well with and see if people are on board with the thing. If you really can't find that collaborator and you are going to go it alone, again, as I said before, don't truly go it alone. Do it with a coach. Do it with a facilitator, a dramaturg, a mentor, a community, a writers group, whatever it looks like. Just make sure that we are always in connection with people, because you may find that the collaborator you were looking for was just around the corner the whole time. You never know. Never know. Okay. So number 1 was don't go it alone, and make sure that in the collaborator process, you find people early. The buy-in is so much lighter. Number 2, write your story to be commercially viable. Don't do that. Just don't. Just write your story, please. My goodness. Before I continue here, just 2 quick reminders, because I see we have a lot of people live today. Is I do an Ask Me Anything at the end of these, so stick around after point 3 and we will chat till the end of the hour. And also, there's a whole bunch of new stuff coming to the Musical Theater Writing Collective, the community that I have built and run, which is very exciting. and it's going to be exclusive to the community itself. One of the features will go public eventually. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but I am going to make that happen. But I'm very excited about all this new stuff that's coming. So if you're interested in joining us, now's a great time to join. You can find a link to that in the description. Okay, number 3. Pardon me, friends. Goodness. Number 3. Third pitfall, jumping right into the writing process without first knowing the depths of the story. Y'all, so you know how I offer those free 30-minute intro calls? Yeah. A lot of people come to me and they're like, so I've been working on this show for a year or a year and a half or 2 years, and I feel like I don't know where I'm going. Like, I don't know where I'm headed. I'm stuck. And when I dig into the process with people, what usually comes up is they don't know their story. Like they have an outline, but the outline isn't fully fleshed out. It does not move beat to beat. There isn't really a structure in place or an arc. They're not taking care of the emotional journey, especially for the audience. And also, they have written 20 songs. And they're like, why don't these songs work? Because you don't know your story. How can you be writing the songs for a story that you don't know? Right? I can't tell you how many people come to me with like albums worth of music, but no script, no book. The book of the musical is everything. Truly everything. It's the foundation on which the entirety of the musical is built. If you don't know your story inside and out, you will wander, you will meander, and write things that may not work ultimately. And then you're going to get attached to them, and it's just, you're going to, roadblocks, right? It's like, see Pitfall 1. You know, we have to know what the story is. The book of the musical, true, when I say, and just for clarity, in case you have not been on the journey recently with me about book of musical, the book of a musical is the story. It is the underlying story. It's not the script. The script is part of the book. The libretto is also part of the book. So libretto being script, words, dialogue, words, scene stuff, and also the lyrics. And then when you add the music in, the music is still part of the storytelling. So all of it really is underlined by the book. The book is that story. So you got to know the story. You got to know that your characters. You have to know where they're headed at every given turn, right? And I'm not saying that you have to be a planner. You can be a pantser. It's okay. But what did you decide ahead of time before you pantsed it? And if you know what a pantser is, I'm realizing that's a silly thing to say if people don't know. It's when you go by the seat of your pants. You just kind of write off the cuff. You don't deeply plan ahead of time. If you do deeply plan, if you're like me and you're a big old planner, it's really great to be able to write through the journeys of all the main characters, figure out how everything's going to work in terms of the flow of the story, inside the set structure that you created before you got started, right? You can start with your tent poles, you can fill things out in between, make sure everything follows logically with therefore, but even if you're doing something that's a non-linear story, you still want the emotional arc to be a journey that pulls the audience through, raises the stakes, the dramatic tension, right? You have to know all these things, which may mean that if you're going to go ahead and pants your way through a first draft, you still got to know this stuff, right? You'll write the first draft. It's going to be messy. All first drafts are, but especially if you're going to pants it. And then you've got a bunch of stuff to work with and figure out how it actually is going to flow. That's not too dissimilar from having a deep beat by beat outline and going and starting to write it and realizing, oh, I thought this was going to follow to there, but actually this character wouldn't do that yet. Therefore, right? Like all of that may be true. But you have to know the story and you have to know where you're headed, because otherwise, how are you going to write a song that actually does the work of the scene if you don't know what the scene is or who the characters are? I gotta do it. My goodness, I'm getting very excited about this today. You can tell. You want to know why it excites me though? I don't know, you didn't ask, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. The reason it excites me is because these things are so freaking avoidable. Right? What is it that makes people want to go it alone? That makes people want to not have a collaborator? What makes people want to write commercially viable pieces, quote unquote, that makes people want to jump right in without knowing the story. It's the same underlying thing. It's fear. It's fear that, well, what if it's not good enough? Or I don't know that I want to show someone else, or this feels vulnerable to do. Yeah, writing is vulnerable. It is a difficult, vulnerable thing to do. All art is. And so you got to be ready for that. And if you aren't ready for it, you at least need to know how to regulate your nervous system enough to dive in anyway. Feel the fear, do the vulnerable stuff, even when it's hard, make it happen. But if you instead let that fear box you in and you take these other three routes, you're going to have a lot harder over time. People get stuck. I don't want you to get stuck. I'd rather you write a good musical and get into the world. I love musicals. I want to see your musical. It's gotta get it out, gotta write it. Okay, that's my diatribe. Those are our three big pitfalls. Reviewing one more time with the knowledge that we'll do some Ask Me Anything because there's, I don't know, a dozen of you live today. Love it. Love it. Thank you for being here live. So much more fun. All right, number one, don't go it alone. And when you get your collaborators, don't be too far in the process yet. Let the buy-in be small. Number two, writing your story to be quote unquote commercially viable is a trap. Trap. My apologies for the Star Wars reference. It's a trap. Don't do it. Number three, jumping right in without a plan, without knowing your story inside and out, without knowing your characters. These are the three biggest things I see people falling into when starting a musical. Even seasoned writers who come to me and they're like, why isn't this working? I've done this before. I'm like, well, if you see point A, you know, I've fallen into these traps myself, friends. I really would like to help you not fall into them. That's me diatribe. So, if you have an Ask Me Anything portion, please feel free. As a reminder, what I said before, the Musical Theater Writing Collective is getting a whole bunch of new stuff, some new features, some upgrades. I'm very excited to talk about them publicly. I will do so soon. Maybe I'll do an entire live stream about it when they're ready to go, so y'all can know what it is I'm talking about. It just sounds mysterious at the moment. It's not mysterious, but I don't want to say anything before everything's set and settled, or at least on its way. You know what I mean. But maybe I'll do a live stream about it. So yeah, now's a great time to join. Please come. Also, because we have some fun stuff coming up in the collective anyway, just like of our of our normal features and things. We have because we do a reading series, a live reading series. We have a reading at the end of this month, first read of a brand new show. We've got a reading in July, mid-July, of a show that's deep in, I don't know, revision 6 or something. It's a great show. I really love that show. And it's going to be Act 1 of it, just to make sure that everything is good and set and settled moving into the revision of Act 2. And we also have a couple live events coming up, including our pitch party, our next pitch party, which everyone had a lot of fun with the first time around in November. And that's for members only. So just so you know, because it's time. We don't have enough time to do it for everybody. So that's upcoming. We do labs every other week. Those are the things. Director JMB, I had a thought that I should revisit some of my songs to add in quote unquote big vocal moments for the characters. Thoughts? Ooh, my first question is, what does big vocal moment mean? And secondly, why? What's that doing for the piece and for the character? Yeah, those are my questions. Feel free to say more in the comments here. But also, I don't necessarily think that all characters need quote unquote big vocal moments. I think they need songs, of course. It's a musical. Let's sing with our main characters. Let's spend time and sing with them. But if you mean big vocal moment as in like belting face like Mama Rose, yeah, we need that necessarily in every show. Yeah, it really depends on the style of the show musically as well, what big vocal moment may mean. Yeah, lots of questions there. Lots of questions. Feel free to clarify and I'll say more in a second. What was I saying? Oh yeah, we also live labs every other week. Labs are great. get a chance to hear, learn from other people what they're writing, the feedback on their pieces, give feedback, share your own pieces for feedback. I love labs. They're fun. They're enjoyable. Yeah, those things. Then obviously I teach courses, but there's no courses coming up. Next course round starts in the fall. That's for flagship and also for the Book and Beyond course. That is going to run again in the fall. I know a lot of you were interested. The timing didn't work. I hear you, and I'm gonna try to judge it for the fall. My apologies. Take over. No other questions or clarity. I'll give it a minute. I know there's a lag because I can always riff. The other thing that I'm going to throw out there. Oh, I also said before, download the North Star question sets. The link for that is in the description. Do that. Those, you need to answer that. You got to know the answers to those. Starting your musical. When you're in ideation and planning, you got to know the answers to those questions. They are going to act as your guiding star throughout the process. Your answers may change slightly as you go through the writing and development process, and that's okay. But we definitely need to make sure that we have a sense of the answers to all of those questions. They are great to have the answers to. So I want to make sure I mention that too. I mean, when we talk about shows, we often reference climactic moments that show off amazing vocals. Sure. Again, I question what does amazing vocals mean? I mean, if you're talking about an exciting Act 1 finale, an exciting 11 o'clock number, yeah, okay. But even those have a lot of range across them, right? Like, what are some good examples? Act 1 finales are often big ensemble pieces, right? Where we do something huge. But the quote unquote amazing vocals is because there's harmony of an ensemble singing together, right? And that is exciting. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we love that. We love that. It could also be a big solo belt moment, right? We can all think about the Defying Gravity sequence. I mean, what's more exciting to go to intermission than Defying Gravity? But also, do the vocals have to be quote unquote amazing in order to send us off into intermission? No, I don't necessarily think so. One of my favorite, like, strange cliffhangers, strange because it's unusual to do a ballad at the end of Act 1, a solo ballad, is Avenue Q. Fine, Fine Line. Great song. So good. Also, lovely cliffhanger moment there, right? It's really more about the cliffhanger than it is about the quote unquote amazing vocals. But, like, yeah, if you want to write some belt pieces because your characters would belt, sure, go for it. But I don't know that it's necessary. It depends on the show. Sage Prescott. Good answer. I like that. Defying Gravity. Yep, we do love Defying Gravity. Hugo. When approaching more recitative sections, would it be better to start with lyrics, written dialogue, start with music? Then, okay. Recitative. Are we talking true recitative? Like we're gonna hold a chord? People are gonna sing some notes while they're talking over the chord, and then the chord's gonna change, and they're gonna keep singing the words over that chord. And then it's gonna change. Yeah, is it like that kind of recitative, or are you talking more about like this the quote unquote sung dialogue that was very popular to the Euro musicals of the 80s and 90s? So like Les Mis. We have a lot of that quote unquote dialogue is of course sung through, therefore it is set to music, but it really is timed out. Um, Here in the snow we build our barricade. Right? Like that's not recitative. That is sung dialogue, and that's really timed. Because if we're talking about actual recitative, we're holding a chord and we're singing things over it, it's really about the words. It's about the words. So I'd start with the words. I mean, musical theater is about the words, friends. It's a words first art form. I know it feels weird to say. Opera is a music first art form. Musical theater is a words first art form, story first art form. But yeah, I mean, if it's going to be kind sung dialogue that isn't quite song material, I think you can do it any which way. Like, what music do you want to use? What are they going to be saying? Maybe it is good to write it out in dialogue form first and then eat that into some lyrics that fit with that music. That's the thing you could do. Like, I think about Andrew Lloyd Webber, right? Webber has his, what I just kind of refer to as like his dialogue music, right? It's almost exactly the same in all of his shows. I saw Sunset Boulevard recently, which I had not seen before, and I was like, yeah, that sounds like the dialogue in Evita. It's like, oh, okay. Because it's just kind of the same thing he does, and he plops it in, and it's just dialogue that's being sung. So it's about the dialogue, it's not really about the lyric side of things. But yeah, I think you can do it any which way. But if it's actual recitative, yeah, the focus is the words. For sure, for sure, for sure. I was wondering how to make lyrics sound a bit more natural, if that makes sense. Sorry if you already covered that, I just joined the stream. That is not one of the major pitfalls. I've not covered that yet, so I can talk about that a little bit. That kind of stuff. Yes, the play is written as a superstar rock opera. There are some cheating to fit in the spoken dialogue, but most of it is fitted in a musical context. Okay, yeah, I mean, then that is a form. We don't really do much of that Euro musical thing anymore. So interesting that you're trying to bring it back. Yeah, I mean, you can follow the templates given by Bublé and Schoenberg or Andrew Lloyd Webber. Kind of take those and just like use the same template for how they decided what's going to be true recit and what's going to be actually more of that song dialogue in time and tempo versus song material and play around from there. Or you can create your own thing. I don't know. Play around, experiment, see what works. Would be my best advice there. Okay, how to make lyrics sound a bit more natural. I did do at least one video, if not a couple videos, on this that are on the channel somewhere. I've made so many videos, friends. I also talked in depth about this inside the flagship course, but I will give you my best condensed version. It's going to come down to two things. Two? Can I boil it to two? We're going to try. We're going to boil it to two. Okay. The first thing is you want the way that the words are being emphasized on the music, as well as the rate of speech, to fall in the way that the words would be if they were spoken. So if I were to say emphasize and sing it, emphasize, it would be weird to do emphasize, right? Because we don't say emphasize, we say emphasize, right? So like that will help on a base level is making sure that the music, where the words fall on the music is emphasizing, sorry to use that word, it's emphasizing properly for how it is spoken. That being said, the one major thing that can twist the answer to that is intention. What is the intention in the moment of the way the lyric is being spoken? Because if I were to say, I don't know, yeah, I'll have a coffee. Right. It's an agreement statement. We'll go with that. Yeah, I'll have a coffee. I could say it as in, I really want a coffee, right? Yeah, I'll have a coffee. Or I could say it as in, like, I'm just kind of agreeing to it. I don't really need it. Yeah, I'll have a coffee. Those sound different, right? The way that we say them. So the way that they would get musicalized would be different, right? Just based upon the intention of what I'm trying to say or get across or what I think or feel that changes the way it is spoken, and therefore the way it is spoken with that intention and feeling and thought should alter or really like heavily influence the way that it gets musicalized. It's the best quick rundown I can give you. Hopefully that's useful. Take the course. It's a good course. What else we got? Hugo, I'm from France. That explains it. Welcome. Well, of course, Hugo Schönberger. I hear it now. And for France, this type of play is still done quite a lot there. Oh, really? I like this style. I want to write something in this style. I guess I knew that. I don't see much French musical theater, right? We had the couple of shows that came here from Bublé and Schoenberg, but beyond that, I think I've heard one, two other French musicals ever. So that's fun. That's interesting. I love that. I think Americans, we sometimes forget how stylized the other countries really are with their versions of musical theater, because Americans like to think about musical theater as being an American art form, which it is. It originated here. That being said, like the West End, when new musicals happen on the West End, they have a sound. They have a structure that's different. Like we know what British musical theater is. Canadian musical theater is different. German musical theater is different. French musical theater is different. Australian musical theater is different. And I love it. I love these little like cultural things that find their way into the art form. So that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Director Dan B, how would you suggest I test out the dialogue to make sure the audience understands the spoken aspects of the story / jokes of the story? Putting together multiple workshops is expensive and difficult to get multiple audiences. Readings? I don't know that we need to do workshops. And don't get me wrong, I think workshops are great, but yeah, they're expensive. Really expensive. Readings are not, or at least they don't have to be. Readings are a great way to figure it out. In terms of making sure that the audience understands the story and the jokes, I might start before a reading. I get some feedback. Honestly, I would find a dramaturg or a coach or a mentor or a director and work with them one-on-one and make sure that the story is being clearly understood. Because I get sometimes it's hard to know when you're close to the story. I mean, even me, when I'm writing things, I'm like, yeah, how's this gonna land? I know how it lands for me, and I've got a sense of how it might land for other people, but I'm not gonna know until I have outside opinions on it, something more objective. And honestly, I love readings. I think readings are the best way to get that kind of feedback. But that being said, there are a couple of caveats. The first caveat is that I am a strong proponent of only doing readings when you're ready for a reading. A lot of people like to dive into a reading instead of getting good, deep feedback from a coach or a dramaturg or a director. And I think that that's a more important first step before the reading. Only do a reading when a show is ready for a reading. And the other caveat is on the other side of the coin here, which is that we want to make sure that when we're doing readings, we have the right people in the room. The people who would respond to the piece, the people who would be either the target audience or close to the target audience, so that the feedback that you're getting actually my God, fits with what you're trying to do, right? People who understand, who would be in the audience for it. They'll tell you if the story makes sense and if the jokes are landing for sure. Yeah, that'd be my thought there. Can you define the differences between a reading, a workshop, and a showcase? Y'all, take my courses. We talk about this all the time. Also, this info is inside the collective too. Probably talked about it in a video or two as well. Who's to say? Maybe. I definitely made a blog post about this way back in the day. Readings, workshops, and what was the other one? Showcase. Okay. What do you mean by showcase? I think I know what you mean by showcase, but you tell me what you mean by showcase. Okay, a reading would be, well, there's so many different kinds of readings. I must have made a video about this. I'm sure I did. I 100% did. There's a video about this. Okay, got it. So we have very casual readings. I love a casual reading. Some people call them pizza readings or home readings, where it's just like it's about you and a bunch of friends and just sit around and you read. There's no audience. It's just like y'all. You can do a closed reading, which is a similar vibe, but everyone's a performer who's doing the reading. You probably are not playing off of demos. You could still play off of demos, but you probably have a pianist and who like helped the people learn the music, they're doing it live, but still, it's a closed reading. It's only the people involved. Or if you want to invite a select small few people who you want feedback from, that'd be a closed reading. An open reading setting would be more of like we're getting to stage reading territories. And that could be at a festival, that could be something you put up yourself. We're not like doing an industry reading at that point, but it is open in some way, shape, or form. People can buy tickets, or you're inviting in a much larger crowd. So those are all different types of readings. Like no one's staging anything, right? A workshop is where we're really taking there's more to readings. Watch that video. A workshop is where we're taking time. This I've seen workshops that are just like a long weekend. I've also seen workshops that are week long, 2 weeks long. If you really have the money, longer than that. But who has the money? Who has the space? Who has the time? And we are paying people for that period of time to be doing this thing for a set number of hours per day on their feet, learning it, words, music, all the things, being blocked, being staged, so we can get a sense of what the show is and is not doing. A large part of workshops is to be able to bring in new pages, make changes, delete things along the way. And then there's usually some sort of presentation at the end. That may be a closed reading presentation, maybe an open presentation. It could be all the way up to what's called a quote unquote workshop production presentation, trying to get eyes and ears on the piece. Lots of different ways to do workshops. So a few friends of the volunteer audience. I'll find the video. Thank you. Yeah, happy to indulge. As far as showcase goes, the only things I think about as showcases are, so we did our first one last month, a salon in the Musical Theater Writing Collective, where we are showcasing 30 minutes of material from shows, from 2 shows. We're gonna do that twice a year, live here in New York, and that's kind of like a showcase of material. Beyond that, what I think people a lot of the time will do to showcase their material is make like really nice recordings of some songs and have them somewhere, Spotify, or if you're adding video, they could be YouTube or somewhere where people can get to learn them. And then the other major thing is doing concert of your material. That's pretty classic to showcase the material as well. So that would be my thought there. Yes, JT, there are a lot of people here today. It's good. We love people. People are great. I love people. I don't know if you love people. Sage. I always find myself unsatisfied with my instrumentals. No matter what I do, I always feel like it's dry or failing in some way, even when I add musical cues. Oh, I have questions. What do you mean by dry? What do you mean by failing? Without examples, it's hard for me to tell. It's hard for me to know what you mean. Dry. Yeah. Yeah, hard for me to really say. Even when I add musical cues. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd love to know more about that question. I'd love to be able to answer more, but I really don't know. In terms of starting with instrumentals, like I always start on a piano or a guitar. That's it. That's what most songs are written with is one of those two. Or I go straight into my sheet music notation software. I just write it in there. With creating lines, I don't even worry about what instrument is getting assigned to what notes. I just like write the lines, write the layers, do the thing on a piano score, and we go. I figure out the actual instrumentals later because as I write the piece and the melody and make sure that the words are doing and the action is doing everything that I want to be doing, and I get the song to a place where the song is, what I intended the whole time, doing the right work. At that point, then the song will kind of tell me what sort of instrument types might be useful to the sound of the song in order to get the feelings I'm looking for, the tones, the timbres, the colors. And then I will go forth and orchestrate it from there, or not orchestrate it from there and save that for someone else to do at a later date because that takes time. I wish I could answer more specifically than that, but that's the best I got for you for today. So feel free to book a 30-minute call if you want to chat further about it. We can do so. Um, Good question though. Okay, we are at the noon hour, mes amis, which means I am turning into a pumpkin. By pumpkin, I mean I have to go to physical therapy. So I am going to sign off. Thank you for being here today. Hopefully this was useful as I got on my soapbox and got very excited. I very much appreciate all of you being here, asking your questions, giving your thoughts along the way. You know where to find me if you would like to know more. Tons of videos on the channel. Search them, please. More resources inside the community. Come join us. A lot of the questions they did hit at the courses. Look at the courses. I promise they're good courses. They will teach you the things you need to know. Otherwise, my friends, I will see you in 2 weeks for another live stream. And have a great couple weeks. See you then. All right. Peace out, everybody. Good.